Welcome back, scrapers. Wow, it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been about 2 or 3 years. Listen, I'll take some of the blame. I fell off the scraping wagon a bit. My content creation dropped down to about zero. Call it COVID, call it children. Either way, I'm back now, and there's going to be some new content coming out in the very near future. I'll start to produce a little bit more, so stay tuned and get ready, because today we have a bit of a doozy. We're going to be taking a look at the IBM Alumni Directory, and we're going to be showing off some of the newer features in WebScraper.io, which is and continues to be a great one where you're going to be looking to scrape 40,000-50,000 people out of a directory. Very simple and free to boot. All of that, step by step, coming up next. All right, let's jump into it, shall we? Now, before we jump into the actual scraping part, I want to talk about kind of pre-scraping tactics, ways in which you sort of investigate and research the best way to get the data that you're looking for, right? So here we have the IBM Alumni Directory, and this always starts off with a little bit of understanding how the web page works, right? So here we have a search, that's it, and I see you could search in only a few fields. There's a last name or beginning name. There is search by maiden name. There's search by city. There's search by current company. And I could actually see a list of the current companies. So note to self, one way I could potentially approach it is try to figure out a way to scroll through this entire list and scrape everyone after that, right? Another way is last name. So let's see what happens when I put it in A. Now I get this box here, right? And it shows a simple URL that reflects that I am doing a query number 2, or S query number 2 equals A. That's what I'm searching for. And then it's doing it in L name equals search. I'm guessing that's what it is. And that gives me 20. So one thing I always like to see is, can I screw with that a little, right? What if instead of putting in a name, I put in a space? That doesn't do anything. What if instead of putting in a name, I put in a character like a ampersand, or even better, like a semicolon? No results there. Let's go back to we had results. We had the A. So let's go back to our searching of an A here and try that by modifying it. I wish I could make this bigger, but I can't, by modifying this. So what if I take that right over here, right, where it says A, and I screw around, I just put a giant space. Doesn't do anything. It actually enters in the code for a space. What if I simply just do a percentage sign? Let's try that. Oh, that's interesting. That had a result. So I put in a percentage sign, and all of a sudden it looks like it's dropping 607 pages worth of people. Each page has, let's say, about 30 or 40 results. So that could be everyone. That could be the easiest way to go about it. Scroll through all of these, scrape all of these, think nothing of it, right? That seems like it's everyone. So that's one interesting way. Now the other thing that comes to mind is when I look into a profile, I notice, okay, there's this box where there's personal information, and there's a business box that doesn't seem to have many people in it, but we'll go through it. And I notice that each one of these here, let's do a quick, how I normally evaluate it is just by randomly opening up like 15 of them, right? There's you, pick a page in the middle, you, right? And I'm just scrolling through them, see what happens. This one, there's a lot of deceased people, by the way. I don't know how to filter that out. So looks like everyone has something in the 1,600,000 range. 1699, nothing in business. 169941, 53, 51, nothing in business. So that's a really interesting secondary way to think about it. Another possible way is to try to figure out the low and the high. like we know it works at 16. Oh, it doesn't give me a result, so maybe it's 1, 6, what was it, 1, 6, 9 maybe? So you're kind of playing around by dropping it to try to find the lowest number. That doesn't work either. So what if we do it to 170? That one works. You know, what about a 160, right? What if I change this to a 6? And that doesn't work, right? So playing around to try to find the low range, the high range, and I could have it go through each one. But for now, I do want to demonstrate an interesting one that really helped with this. Although now that I'm seeing it, this probably is an easier way. Let's go back to the search. So, you know, I took a look, and you know, it seems like if I go to A, and then to B, and then to C, it's pretty much dumping anyone. 20 for A's. And if this was right, I'd expect what? M's to be big. Yep, there's 56 M's. This is not dissimilar from Wheel of Fortune here. R's should be a big one. Oh, they're 29. So I'm assuming that if I do A through Z, I'll pretty much get all of them. So let's show you kind of an interesting way to go about doing that. And for this, what we're going to use is a program called Sublime Text. Now, why Sublime Text? It has an easy feature for me, but it's just a text editor. So what I want is I want one of these for every letter of the alphabet. So just for, let's see, L, M, P. So we have it. We have A through Z, and I know that I have to get this beginning of it in front of each one of them. So I'm going to highlight it up to the letter, which is right there. I'm going to Control C that. I'm going to go back into here. Now watch this. I hit Control A, and I hit Control Shift L for multiple cursors. And I'm going to hit Home, and I'm going to paste it. And what that did is it opens up anything I do will be repeated across every line. So here I have one for every single letter, but I still need the end of that, which is, let's see, from after the letter. So let's copy that. We'll do the same thing here, right? Control A, Control Shift L. I always go home, then end, and paste. Now, I'm going to add this because I know we need to, but I'm going to put them all in quotes. I'm going to put a comma after them, and I will show you why in a second. So that's step one. Hypothetically, you could just paste this link 27 times and put in the letters, right? But this was a fairly bit of an easier way. So what we need now is a blank sitemap, right? So watch this. This is super easy. All you're going to do is open up webscraper.io, right? And here I created a blank one, but let's show you how to do that. You know, let's do a create new sitemap, create sitemap. I'm just going to call this one blank 2. It doesn't matter what you name it. And for a URL, you could choose anything. It's right here, so I'm just going to paste this one in there. Now this is a blank map, so if I go to site and I can export sitemap, I now have it in the right format. So what I'm going to do is come back to my notepad and paste this here. And what we want to do is replace all those ones we have instead of this right here. So I'm going to separate the box down, right? And this way I can just clean this out, and I know anything, all my maps are going to go here, all my links. So we have these, we just have to put it onto one line. Now, this is another easy part and why I like this. If you hit Control A and then Control H for find and replace, I can use regular expressions or regex, make sure this little star thing right here is on. And the one we need for the end of the line is a /n. And as you see, that's the end of every single line, the blank space at the end of the line. And I want to replace that with nothing, blank, nothing on the replace line. I'm going to click replace all. And what that does is that just consolidate onto one. So now I have first link here, surrounded, let's see if I can make this bigger. We have first link here, right? Surrounded by quotes and comma. Then second link, then comma. And third link, then comma. This is all one giant line. It's being word wrapped because it would run off the page, but it's all one giant line. And I don't need that last one. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to our other page. I'm simply going to paste it in here, right? And then I'm going to, here, I'm going to delete all the blank. Basically, I want this directly up to here. That's as far as it will go, so that's fine. If I made this normal size, you could see it's actually like on the last line, right? It's here. It just would run off the page. So if I try to delete this, there you go, perfect. Now that's completely encapsulated in the first one. Everything else is the same. Now I'm going to take that giant thing we just created. I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to create new sitemap again. This time import it. I'm going to paste it here. If it turns green, you've done the right thing. Let's call this map with the links. Now here it is. You're like, there's nothing here. That's because it's all in the metadata. So if I click on sitemap and I go to edit metadata, you could see that these are the links that it's going to go to. Now I could do this by hand, and I could add this 26 links and paste all these in one by one. That's if you don't have a text editor, I could essentially just replace this line over and over and just keep changing the letter. That would be the slow way to do it. This way was a lot easier. So now that we have that, we're ready to go. And what we've told it is run this search with A, run the search with B, run the search with C. And so now we could go building the map. And this is where I think it gets fairly easy. So I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger here and scale this down here. So we're going to do add. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this new pagination beta. It's actually really cool if you've ever used web scraper. So I'm going to call this change page. And I'm going to select, and what I'm telling it to select, all these links at the bottom. I'm going to click on them individually so they all light up. And I'm going to keep it on auto, but you see there's all these different ways to do it. Keep it on auto. And basically what it did is, and this is going to go a little bit into technical town, but it saved this and it made itself a child onto itself. So it kept it in the root, and then it made change page, which is it. It is change page. So it created this never-ending sort of loop. But that's exactly what we want. So now we go into the change page, and I'm going to add my link selector on multiple, and I'm going to tell it, let's make it smaller, to click on every link it comes up by. Boom, boom, and call this profile link. Inadvertently, I think this also captures their name, and I'm going to save it. Now, how do we know that it worked? Well, we could go to selector graph, and we can see what's going to happen in real time. First, it's going to change the page. Now, because this is web scraper, it always goes in reverse for some unknown reason. So it's going to go to page 29. Click on it. Boom. Then what's the next thing it's going to do? It's going to click into every profile. It's going to go back to change page. It's going to go to 28. And scrape everything in the profile. Then go to 27. And it's going to continue this until it's all the way out. So we're good on that. And we can go into the profile link and now tell it what pages to scrape. Now at this point, we need a map to go by. And I always recommend using the maps that have the most amount of information. So in this case, let's choose a map. But since we know some of them have companies, let's pick a company and let's just see if we have some examples. So I don't know, what's the biggest company we have here? Ameriprise is pretty big. Let's pick them. Hopefully there's some people from there. There's only two. All right, well, we'll see if those two work for us. So here we have a name of a business, we have an email address here. This one has an email address and phone number, has a name of a business where their title is first and their company is second, and this also contains a phone number and a web page. I guess it's to their advisory page, right? So this is actually a really good one. This one is nothing, this one is also nothing. This one is bad because we wouldn't even know that information was there. So I like that. Let's go back one more time and just, for shits and giggles, try one more. Just to make sure there isn't anything. Great. I picked the one that has only one person. And this file is the same thing. title and company. All right, last try here, just so we don't get to the end of the scrape and then realize Cognizant is huge. What do you guys think? Cognizant or Cognizant Technology Systems? Cognizant? All right, let's give it a try. Well, we're just not going to look out here. Let's try these two. Okay, we got email, we got an address, we got a business name, nothing special there. This one has a little bit of everything, has an email, has a phone number. So these two are really good. Since this is missing a bunch of stuff on the top, I don't like it as much. This one also has everything. Let's use Carol Taylor here. So I'm going to copy this profile. I'm going to bring it over to the window that we're scraping out of and just paste it in. Okay. Now, here's where we usually start adding things, right? And that is not what we wanted to do. We wanted it to load. Page up. Okay. So this is where we normally start adding things. And as I go to add, I'm like, uh-oh, I can't get to the first line. It's getting the whole box. Now, that actually could work because it is giving me everything, but it would end up the data being not be clear because some would look like this where things are separated. You could see, let me make this big. You could see it gives me the first name, comma last, and then it has nothing separating it but a space, then a comma after the street, a comma after the city, a comma after the state, nothing between the zip and the phone. Then you have phone number, nothing between phone number and email. Then you have email, start year, end date. But that is going to look a lot different than this profile, which is going to have anything here. Or this one, oh, that's what we're using. And this one might look a little different. So we need a way to sort of separate it out. Or just accept we're going to have dirty data, and that's okay. Sometimes I'd rather get something than nothing at all, so that's okay with me. So here, we need to figure out why is that happening. So we're going to just right-click on it for a second, right? I could use this and right-click on it. It's going to bring me to where this is in the code. Now I can see it's all coming from here, and when I open up the first one, there's nothing there. It just says personal. So this first class clearly is just the personal. This second one, now it's just a blob of information, right? This is a giant text box. It's name in quotes, then a break, a line break, then quotes surrounding the address, and a line break, then quotes surrounding the phone, email. There's an email address which does have a link attached to it, then IBM, and so on and so forth. So how do we separate that out? Well, there's a couple of ways that we could look to doing it, but all of them are going to require us using regex, right? But first, before we go down that rabbit hole, I want to see what it looks like if I just pull the HTML. Maybe those commas, quotes, might be helpful. So when I pull the HTML, I get these BRs, which actually might not be a bad way to go about it, right? Because if you put this all into Excel, I could do text to column and split it by BR, or split it by, here I'll show you an interesting example of that. Let's say we have open, a Google Sheet. I'm just going to create a new one here. And assume we had tons of rows that looked exactly like that, right? A giant blob by the BRs. We want to split them. We can use this function called split. Split this line. I want to split it by this BR thing, right? And close it. And, all right, sort of worked. Sort of. This got Taylor. She got Taylor Carly B. That's really interesting. I almost have to escape it. So anyway, there's definitely a way to get it to recognize this. That was not the way to do it though. But you see my point. There should be a way to split it directly on the BR. do that, separate into quotes, tell it we just want to do it like that. And that got CA, that's weird. I don't even know where it got the CA from. I'm guessing that there's a BR somewhere there. But either way, that's could be a potential way to go about doing it. Obviously here, it didn't quite make much sense, so we're not going to use that. If I had done separated by quotes, by commas, it would have got something different, and now it's sort of separating them out, but it's just not evenly unified. Another thing I could look to do is just try to do a bit of a find and replace those BRs with something that I know I could filter on, like maybe double ampersands, right? And then simply tell it, okay, do the same thing, but split it by double ampersands, and not double @signs, and ampersands. And now it's a little bit clearer, and we essentially have everything in a category, right? So that's one way to go about doing it. Now, assumably that would work, but where we're going to fall off is what if that information isn't there? Then it would it still maintain the space with a blank? So let's take this person, for example. They don't have the information, so when I look down here, okay, it might be a little bit harder to separate it, but it does keep the BRs, the BR tags, accurate. So you could look to doing that. I don't know, sounds like a mess, but certainly a way to get it, and even if it's not perfect, you could still do a lot with it. So let's show a completely different way. We can use, we can do it a bunch of different ways. We can use Regex to separate it out, right? Now, how do we use Regex? Well, it's really easy. We just Google it because it's really complicated and I don't know how to use it. Here I have a bunch of ones that I use, right? And this one to grab the first line, this one to grab the second line, emails, phone numbers, start dates, that sort of thing. So I can paste this in here and say just grab the front line, and now it's just grabbing that first line, whatever it is. Now, I'll post these so you could see them, but how did I get it? I just Googled it, right? Regex, return only first line, and someone else has found the answer. Let's see. No. Regex to match only the first line, and then I'll just give and take it. Here's one that could work, and I'll plug and play. Either it will work or it won't work. Here's another one. It uses a negative look back, so I don't know if that's going to be accepted, but we can copy it and we can give it a try. Now, know this, that if you leave a space before or after, it completely messes it up. This one doesn't work at all. What if we got rid of that? Does that work? That sort of works. Okay, so without the $, it works. That one worked. Why did I take away the $? Because it didn't work with the $, so I figured let's try with that. What does that mean? End of string. I don't know anything. I don't know why that works or doesn't work, but I gave it a try and it works, so now I would give that a try another page and we're good to go. So this is rocket science, I just don't know it. So that would get me the first line, and I could look for something that's going to get me the second line. I could do that same search, right? Let's do text. Nope, I just want to grab the whole box here. And the one that I have to do it looks like this. Sorry. And that gets the first line. Interesting enough, there's a space there, which there shouldn't be. And that grabs everything on the second line, so the second BR, right? And I could do that for the third line, but here's what I want to do. Let's do address. And I have one that specifically will do if there's an email address. I don't need to use it because it's here, so just assume that there's going to be an A link, and that's going to be an email, and it's never going to appear any other way, so I'm going to grab it like that. If it does appear another way, it won't come up. And that's generally why I don't do that, but I will do this, and I'll use my special email regex. I'll paste it here because I want it no matter how an email shows up. So I'll just call this email number 2. And I have different ones for IBM, right? For a start, right? This is just find everything that comes after start year to the end of the line, find everything that comes after IBM end year to the front of the line. Now, if you're a Regex expert or computer science major, or really anyone that is better than I am, these could be the worst in the world. I have no idea. Half the time I don't even know what they do or why they work the way they do. I found it. It was trial and error. It worked, so I jotted it down, and I could pull it off of my big chart anytime I need to use it. So that's that, and then we could contend with this one down here. Now, we could just duplicate this whole thing that we did. However, what's interesting is that sometimes title is first and company is second. Sometimes it's the opposite way around. So, you almost have to just do two and hope you get it, right? So I can just do the top line and call this company or title, knowing that there might be a few sort of oddballs out there, or it might be the opposite way around, and then use the second to grab this. And I'm sure there's better ways to this, but this works. American Financial, and call that, it's probably company or title, right? Company or title, how about doing it differently? Yeah, so either or, we'll get it. And I'll show you an example, consulting director, where title was first, but I don't know where I saw it. And here's where it really comes in handy, because here you have a web link and you have a phone number, so that's really important. I'm going to do that for email too, just in case. I'm going to encapsulate that, and I'm going to use my phone number one, right? I'll post this in the comments, which did not work. Why did it not work? I don't know. Let's try that one at a time. It didn't work because I used the email one. That's why it didn't work. And I grabbed the phone number. So call this a business phone, whatever, or leave letters out, left or right. Doesn't make a difference. And I could do the same thing now. Let's just show you how I arrived at some of these. So I want to grab a web link. I don't know the regex for a web link off the top of my mind, so let's do this. Regex for website URL, and let's see what they come up with. That's an interesting one. Let's see if anyone. This one looks good. Let's give this one a try. Let's see if that one gets us what we need. Okay, that looks like it works. That looks good. Do we have another example to test that out on? No. That's the one we're using. Ah, yeah, let's do this. Let's bring this one. We could just cut and paste it into the window we're working on. And let's see if this one works. This time it's a LinkedIn one. Grabs LinkedIn one, okay. So it can grab whatever link they put on. Now, let's call this web, right? And since I just loaded a new one here, right, I can see, make sure this works. I could do that by testing one of them out. We'll grab the phone number on the top. Maybe not put the phone number one on the top. I didn't say the phone number on the top, but let's see. Does it grab the top? It does. Does it grab the second line? It does. The second line here is actually city, state. That's how they give us. Does it grab the email as the link? Looks like it grabs the email the second way. And there should be no reason why it doesn't grab the email the first way. It does. And then we only have company or title here, cognizant, and then a duplicate of a company or title to get the consultant director. So for all intents and purposes, it works. And now all we have to do is save it and then run it. And this is going to run for a bit, right? So let's start it. Let's go to scrape. Let's set it to run. Now, let's see what happens. It immediately goes to Z's, and it goes to the back of it and starts running through it. Now, you're going to get a lot of deceased, but I always run a quick test run. So let's refresh it. Let's see what the data looks like. So it looks like it's fairly getting it. Didn't come up with a lot that have companies, but we knew that it's not going to be a lot of them. We just want to grab it. Perfect. Now I'll mention one more thing before I end this, and I'll go back to selectors. Sometimes when it's this big block, or not when it's a big block, when I'm using regex, or things move around, I know I'm going to screw it up. I know it's not going to be perfect. I don't want to have to run this a million times, so I'll add a catch-all. In this case, I'll just grab everything on the first block, and I'll just call this done, and I'll call this personal, all personal, and I'll do the same thing for the bottom one, or whatever else it is I'm trying to get. I'll just call it all business, right? Now, why am I doing that? Well, I'm doing that for two reasons. For a check to make sure I'm doing it right, and also so I don't have to rerun this, and maybe even if it screws up, I'll get some useful data. So let's just rerun the search for a second. I'm going to attempt to decrease this and speed this up a bit by dropping down to 1,000. And let's go a little faster. So as it starts going through the profiles, let's let it run a few. Now that it's run a few, let's just refresh it for a second. And I'm going to make this bigger just to paint my point a little bit. So here, I could double check to make sure it's getting me what I want, right? So I could see, okay, this one only had basic information. So I could look for one where it has email. Here it has an email. And so, yep, it got the email, right? It separated out the address. And I could test it so I don't have to worry, oh, did this one not get anything? What's wrong with it? And then I look, it's like, well, it just has a name and that he's deceased. So I didn't even tell it to get the year, but we could have put that in. So it gives a good check, and God forbid I miss anything like the year start, year, end year. I have it here, so I could probably just section it off, or use some Excel formula to pull it out if I really cared about that. And this way, because for this one, it's a long scrape. It's going to last a day, maybe more, depending on how fast your internet is. But it's going through a lot of records, and it's not going very quickly, right? It's literally taking a second or two for each record. So that's going to amount to a lot. But it's the kind of thing I leave overnight or in the background. It doesn't take up much. Every once in a while I check in, dump it, just to make sure I don't lose it. But yeah, that's how you go about doing it. And that's, one way to go about doing it. I think we saw there was another way. There's always multiple ways, but if I went a little bit too fast, if you go back and rewatch the video, you will see other sites that will become really easy, that you'll want to make a more detailed sitemap like this. And you'll certainly find sites that paginate. This is a very common, very basic pagination. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for checking it out, and look forward to some more videos in the near future.